Now, given that Disney is getting ready to shift from focusing on Star Wars TV shows mainly over back to Star Wars films again, we have, of course, creators out there like Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni really forming big plans for the future of the Star Wars universe and exactly what they are about to do with Star Wars Legends getting reborn again. This is Mike Zero. Make sure to subscribe if you're new to the channel for future Star Wars updates. Also, by the way, guys, make sure to drop a thumbs up on this video to support the channel. I thank you also very much for the kind support. It is greatly appreciated. Now, one thing that we do know about Bob Iger is that he is approaching Star Wars with a brand new format by focusing on Star Wars movies again. His overall plan is to eventually get 2 Star Wars movies out a year in as short as time as possible, basically. So that's basically what Bob Iger wants to do. He wants to really kind of build things up from the ground and really give the fans a new take on the Star Wars universe. Instead of focusing on TV shows mainly, he wants to begin to use TV shows just as a supplement, as a side thing, per se. Now that brings us to exactly what's been going on behind the scenes over at Lucasfilm between Bob Iger and the Disney board, and exactly what they are currently doing with 3 new Star Wars trilogies. We already talked about this, of how they are focusing on the Mandalorian trilogy, which basically is going to be new sequel trilogy films, the continuation of the episodic films 10 through 12 as a distant project, and also we have the Old Republic trilogy. However, we're going to be going over one movie in particular that actually involves both Favreau, Filoni, George Lucas, and other creators coming on board as well. So one thing about all of this that's even all the more exciting has a lot to do with exactly the Old Republic itself. Now, with many new Star Wars projects about to be announced at Celebration next year, it's described, of course, however, that both Favreau and Filoni are currently working on the first film of a new trilogy that's in the early stages, that is set to focus on the days of the Old Republic era. Now, each film is actually said to bounce back and forth throughout time, showcasing different years of the Old Republic. This was further approved by Bob Iger, who is moving along with Bob Chapek's initial plan to make an OR trilogy. Now, the first film that involves Favreau and Filoni as co-writers is set to focus on a big tale of Darth Revan and Darth Malgus, as well as Darth Zana and Bane as the 2 big main storylines. The Old Republic film is set to focus on both the origin story of these characters as well as their rise to becoming Sith Lords in the galaxy, and also focusing on their struggles against the Jedi and defeating Jedi in this dark era of the franchise that Favreau and Filoni will be involved in. Now let me just pause here for a second. Now, this is an era that a lot of fans have been asking for a very long time, and you guys may recall that we talked about this about a year ago, that Kathleen Kennedy wanted to create her own version of the Old Republic that was going to basically, be her own take on the actual timeline. And that got canceled, thankfully. Then John and Dave took over, and they're now working on developing these new movies, so to speak, as co-writers. Now, Lucasfilm or Disney, however, they're looking for a main writer to actually take care of this new trilogy and this movie in particular, where Favreau and Filoni will just be used as co-writers. So let's just be clear about that. They are not going to be the main writers, they will be serving as co-writers. So they're still on the hunt for a main writer of this OR trilogy that's going to really bring things to a different level of Star Wars that we have never seen before. Basically, they want to give us the most violent Star Wars series of films that we've seen, in the Legends universe and in the books of that partition. So that brings us to the next scenario. Now, given that George Lucas is going to be helping out with Favreau and Filoni on numerous projects, including these, the thing about Darth Zana and Darth Bane and Malgus and Revan, they're very compelling characters. They're very complex characters. They have a deep background, a deep backstory. There's a lot to tell here, and I like the format that they are approaching. Disney is said to be using the OR trilogy as a series of films that will bounce back and forth throughout time. Now, we're not quite sure if it's going to bounce back and forth throughout time individually within each film, or if it's going to do it within scene by scene. That we're not quite sure of just yet. We're not sure if that is a trilogy scale thing or a standalone movie scale type of thing, right? So on the next thing. Now it's noted, however, that Disney is already trying to get a main writer, as I said before, or two, on board of this Old Republic trilogy that will serve the majority of the story. The story of Zannah and Bane is set to explore aspects of the creation of the Rule of Two as well in this first film of the Old Republic. This is described to be Disney's way of creating dark Star Wars movies that will be catered to hardcore fans that have wanted a grittier style that will borrow elements from the Lord of the Rings movies. Disney is already on the hunt of who will play both Bane and Zannah in the new Star Wars film, and that Marion Cotillard has been approached to portray Zannah in this movie. For those of you that don't know Marion Cotillard, if you guys have watched the Dark Knight trilogy, specifically The Dark Knight Rises, she portrays Talia al Ghul. And if you look at her face, and if you look at Zannah's face, I think it's perfect casting. I think it makes a lot of sense. I think it's a perfect way to kind of get somebody that has been in great movies like Inception, Dark Knight Rises, and a lot of other films out there. She's an amazing, I believe, French actress that really can play those villainous roles, so it makes a lot of sense why they would want her. So, on to the next thing here is that they already have a total of 5 candidates of who's going to become the main writer of the Old Republic trilogy. Now, again, this is going to be slated to be released for theaters, not for Disney+. Originally, they wanted movies to go on Disney+. Bob Iger's getting rid of that idea now. He wants to only put movies out in theaters, strictly speaking. And you know what? I think that at the end of the day, this is something that's going to be better for the Star Wars universe. I'm not here to say that, you know, it's bad to put movies on Disney+. Some people can't afford to see, you know, movies with a very large family. I get that. I 100% understand that. And sometimes it's more, you know, cost effective to just have a subscription. But this is going to make it like an event. This is going to make it feel fun. It's going to make it feel like you're going to something big and, you know, just something that's world scale. Kind of like Avatar 2. You know, when you think about Avatar 2, it's something huge, right? That's what they want to do with Star Wars again. They want to make sure that they can do something so large scale that it's going to attract to not just Star Wars fans, but it's also going to attract to the common moviegoer that's going to create new fans. You know, I've seen so many people here in the comments saying that they got into Star Wars based on seeing the sequel trilogy movies, and even they themselves didn't like those movies all that much, but they went back, they watched the originals, they watched the prequels, and they loved them, and now they're fully embraced. So overall, I think that, you know, they're on a roll here of really trying to establish that. So let me know what you guys have to say about all this below in the comments, and if you guys did enjoy the content for today, make sure to drop a thumbs up on this video to support the channel. I thank you all so very much for the kind support, and I'll catch you guys next time.